Ivanka Trump has decided to play dumb in a deposition regarding the investigation over the Trump inauguration and how that money for the inauguration was spent. Now, there's some indication that the Trump campaign took quite a bit of that money and overcharged for a Trump property to host the event. So that's what this investigation is about. But the reason why this is important is because the person that Ivanka Trump is being asked about is Alan Weisselberg. He's at the center of every investigation that the Trump organization is facing right now. So while it's true of the inaugural funding, it's also very much true of the ongoing investigation into the Trump organization allegedly inflating assets to obtain loans illegally and then deflating assets to skirt paying federal taxes. Now, who is Alan Weisselberg was the question that Ivanka Trump was asked in this deposition in December with investigators from the District of Columbia Attorney General's office as part of its lawsuit alleging the misuse of inaugural funds. And here's how she answered the question. He is I would have to see what his I don't know his exact title, but he's an executive at the company. Now, keep in mind that Ivanka Trump has been working for the Trump organization since 2005, and he is the chief financial officer. He's the CFO. And when you've been working for a company that long, you know who the executives are. You know who the CFO is.
It's beyond that. It's absurd. Don't get misled. Trump organization, because he constantly does self-puffery and he's, I'm worth $10 billion, I'm a big billionaire. No, he's bankrupted himself 6 times. He doesn't have that much money left. The Trump organization is tiny. And even if you think he's worth billions of dollars, it doesn't matter. The number of people who work at the Trump organization is not in dispute, even by the Trump people, right? It's a tiny little company. It's basically a family company. So it's not like, oh my God, Alan Weisselberg got lost in the 800 employees. There's only a handful of employees there. If Ivanka shows up to work every day, there's Alan right there. He's among the few employees you have. He's the one that runs all the numbers. The idea that she might not know exactly who Alan Weisselberg is a hilarious joke. I mean, that's basically telling the lawyers in that case, yeah, I'm lying. I'm obviously trying to hide how important Alan is because he's the one that keeps all of our books. And if he flips, we're all screwed.
You know, it's also, I know that this is not some groundbreaking point, but I have to say it. It seems as though the only way to get ahead in this country is to be a white collar criminal. Really, I mean, because look at what they did, allegedly, okay? So the DC Attorney General sued the Trump organization and the Presidential Inaugural Committee last year, alleging they misused more than $1 million raised by the nonprofit by grossly overpaying for the use of event space at the Trump Hotel in Washington for the 2017 inauguration. Like, it's just, all they see is like, if this is proven to be true, opportunities to siphon off money for themselves by overcharging for their properties, by the Trump administration insisting on holding all of these official events and meetings with foreign leaders on Trump properties in order to pay himself. Why not? That's what this is all about. That's what this was all about from the very beginning for Donald Trump. You think he cared about representing the best interests of the people who still till this day unfortunately support him, even though he ripped them off? Didn't actually offer anything to change their lives materially. I mean, he certainly didn't improve the living conditions for the very people who support him, but okay, I mean, I'm done trying to persuade those people. If they support him, they support him. It is what it is. But people like Donald Trump and now his offspring just see opportunities to rip people off and transfer money that they don't deserve, did not earn, to their own bank accounts.
Yeah. So Jennifer Weisselberg is the former daughter-in-law of Alan Weisselberg, and we showed you at the end of last week, she came out on CNN and said, when they asked, will Alan flip on Trump? She just said very succinctly, yes. And so now the question as to whether he'll do it is, how much criminality has Alan Weisselberg participated in, his son Barry, the one that she was married to, and do they have the goods on that? Because if they do, then a guy like Alan Weisselberg, who was unscrupulous enough to work with Trump for all these years, and according to everyone that was around them, and then some people that were in the organization like Michael Cohen saying, yes, they broke the law countless times, right? Will he then go to prison to help Donald Trump? It seems unlikely. It seems more likely that he'll flip to save himself and his son, in which case Trump would be in trouble for the first time in his life. Because look, I used to think that it was that there might have been issues about money laundering and the Russians. I was on Michael Cohen's podcast. I asked him about that. He minimized it. I don't know that he's telling the truth, but he said what's much bigger issue is, as he talked about in congressional hearings, the constantly deflating their asset prices to cheat on their taxes and inflating their asset prices, this for the same assets, to get good valuations for insurance purposes, et cetera, right? So that's classic white collar crime, and Anna's right. And I was thinking about that over the weekend too, because we all play by these rules, but that's because we don't have much power. And if you went outside the rules, you would be crushed.
Exactly.
But with folks with a lot of power, the rules are optional to them because they have a team of lawyers. So then the lawyers go in there and they mangle the rules and they fight the rules. And so nothing is what it seems to be. So Trump then doesn't pay his taxes for decade after decade after decade, but he never goes to jail and he doesn't have to face those consequences because he sends his army of lawyers in there, and his lawyers cost a lot less than the taxes he cheated on.
Right.
And then this inauguration committee, they spent over $100 million. Nobody knows what the hell $100 million went to on a tiny little inauguration, right? And so
it was a big crowd.
Yeah. And now Melania's former friend, one of her top friends, is saying publicly, look, man, nobody knows where that money went. And a lot of it went into the hands of Trump and his allies. Rick Gates, who was his deputy chair for his campaign in 2016, said in Manafort's trial, which she points out, that yeah, I might have stolen some of the money. I'm paraphrasing, but that was in open court. He talked about how he might have used it for personal reasons. Nobody even followed up, or maybe they've been following up and we're about to find out. And those are the cases in New York that we told you about last week, the Manhattan DAs and the Attorney General for New York. But if they stole that level of money, both from when they were in government and before they were in government, yes, if there's any justice in the world at all, and if rules are applied consistently and America means anything and our Justice Department isn't a joke, yes, then he would face very severe criminal offenses. But right now, at best, it's 50-50.
No one's going to jail. I think that's the prediction that I'm gonna make for whatever it's worth. No one, even if there's a mountain of evidence, even if there are convictions, no one's going to prison. This is what happens with people who are powerful. We saw it happen in the 2008 recession where Wall Street committed, Wall Street executives committed all sorts of fraud to, basically beef up securities that were pretty much useless, worthless, had toxic assets, toxic mortgages. No one relevant went to prison for that.
They got a kid who was like in his 20s or 30s.
Yes, I remember that. One person, and it was like the least powerful person in Wall Street.
It was the most obvious scapegoat in American history.
Poor guy.
Yeah, and everybody else, they're like, oh, you committed billions of dollars of fraud, you're free to go. And Eric Holder, it's not just Republicans and it's not just Trump. When you talk about the establishment, both Republicans and Democrats do it. Eric Holder, in essence, said in front of Congress that if they put the bankers in jail, it would affect the banks and that would affect the global economy, and they didn't want to risk it. In other words, they were too big to jail.
Yep.
Well, that means there's no equal justice in the country. Rich people don't even, the rules are optional for them. And Trump is the king of that. And then he'll have his vigilantes howl, oh, so unfair. Now the poor orange leader can't break every law and cheat and rob us of taxpayer money. Oh. And then because of that, he's even less likely to go to jail. And usually most of the people in politics are cowards and they'll usually give into that, including, well, let's see how New York does. Let's see how they do. But I would be shocked if he I said 50-50, but Anna's right. It's not 50-50. I'd be surprised to shocked if Trump actually went to prison. Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.